Okay. What? It's been so long since we've done this. I forget how to do it.
Hello, denizens of the Sunlight Realm. It is me, Beans. Solotl isn't here. This is my channel now. It's my town.
No, I'm not giving it away. Um, I can't believe my coworker would be.
Wow, it's almost like you hate your coworker and you look like a grumpy goldfish.
I'm rebranding. I'm a werewolf now.
So today we decided to do a random generator character challenge. And basically what that is we both went to the charactergenerator.uk, randomly generated a character, and then both of us had to draw a character off of the same prompt.
Yeah, we both kind of went wild with this one. Came up with different characters. Plural, even though the assignment was one.
I mean, when they see the description, it'll make sense why we went plural.
Yeah. So here's the description. Ruth Morris, 55, grumpy werewolf. Ruth is a grumpy werewolf who is addicted to psychology. People often compare her to a grumpy goldfish. She strongly dislikes her coworker. On Mondays, she likes to look for somewhere better to live.
I love how weirdly specific these character generators get.
It's so specific.
Like, you guys should absolutely check out this character generator because we got some wild ones.
Yeah, we rolled a few times, and this one's the one we decided was our favorite. I think what I'm going to do is start out with the concepts that I had before I get into the actual art, because a lot of this was designing the character. I knew going into it that I wanted an older woman, but 55 really isn't that old, but just somebody who's like so tired. And so, okay. I wanted some aspect of her to resemble the goldfish, and I played around with a few different ways to do it, and I ultimately settled on color palette, going with kind of a more gold wolfy type.
Mm-hmm.
I just imagine the coworker likes to pinch her cheeks.
Aww.
Because the coworker is like, ah, yes, you're a little grumpy gold, kind of thinks she's a little bit adorable.
Aww, you drew the little wolf that she turns into.
I did.
Oh, that's so cute.
I was trying to get like the vibe of this character down because it took a little while. There's the first example of the coworker, and I got to a point where I realized that what I wanted was for Ruth to be wearing this super oversized suit jacket, and her job is she works the night shift at an office, like at a call center kind of situation.
Oh.
But it's mostly quiet, mostly dead. I wanted to do this as my main drawing, where the coworker was being like obnoxious, cheeky, leaning over the freaking cubicle thing, messing with her. And I also was trying out Clip Paint 3D model situation.
Yeah.
I modeled the cubicles myself just with some basic shapes, and then I pulled in the poses, and I spent a long time posing them, and then realized that I knew I wasn't recording with OBS, but I thought maybe that the Clip Studio recording feature would record it. It does not.
Yeah.
It only records like paintbrushes and stuff like that. I ended up not super liking where it was going with just kind of overlaying the models with the character designs that I had in mind. I don't know if it was because it was too much of a departure from my own style, because I found that these 3D models, their torsos were a little bit longer than what I usually draw.
Yeah, the torsos do get very long on these models, as well as like...
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like the shins go on for days, like a Monster High situation.
You know, the shins didn't feature in mine, so I didn't notice that as much as I noticed, like... And the other problem I had with it is that getting things in scale, which was mostly what I needed it for,
Yeah.
was not as easy as I wanted it to be. But here's the pose with the cheeky little... By this point, I'd done a lot of drawing, like, just on paper, so I can't really show them. I might pop them up here and there. So I had a better idea of, like, what the characters were looking like, especially the coworker. I ended up going back to the drawing board a little bit on Ruth after I gave up on this track of it.
Mm-hmm. I love how messy you decided Ruth looks.
Yeah, she's just kind of like, doesn't care about... This is where I kind of got the contrast between these two characters. I have a werewolf and I have a vampire.
Which we both ended up doing, actually.
Yes! Good.
I thought that would happen.
Like, it's just the natural thing to do, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted Ruth to be kind of tired, not taking super good care of herself, and at a contrast to the vampire, who I wanted to be very, like, fashion forward, very bold, contrasting colors, black and white. But Ruth has, like, mostly monotone browns and golds kind of colors, but not a lot of harsh contrast. The premise I have for these two is an office-style comedy. In my head, the whole time I was, like, making these characters, I wanted, like, this sort of adult cartoon type show. Like a Gretzko or something.
Yeah.
Where it's, like, an office comedy. Except this happens during the night shift at a call center. So that it's, like, it's not glamorous work. It's not fun work. But it's office work, and it's plenty of space for that kind of drama.
I love this Ruth. Like, I love how chunky and kind of tired this werewolf looks.
Yeah! And I wanted her to have exactly one suit jacket. And she has to wear that suit jacket whether she's in human form or in werewolf form, because she just doesn't give a damn.
That's so funny. Like, she's shopping for a suit jacket and she's just like, this has to fucking fit when I'm transformed as well. I don't care if I look stupid in it.
Yeah, so it's like super tight on her when she's in like the hulking werewolf form, but then it's like it swamps her when she's not. I just wanted that energy to carry forward, because as I was thinking more and more about the plot, I was like, I sort of started leaning into this, like, rom-com idea.
Oh my god.
Where Ruth and the coworker, who I ended up deciding her name was, Lissy?
Lissy.
Lysse.
Aw.
Lissy is much, much older than Ruth, and Ruth is kind of like, I'm past my prime. I ended up deciding that she is a widow, and her spouse died, like, pretty tragically long enough before this story starts that her life is kind of like, she's kind of like, okay, I had the love of my life, I'm done. Like, I can't, loving anyone else would be a shame to her memory. And Liz, as this vampire who loves with her whole damn heart, but has lived for hundreds of years and outlives, unless she's running into a vampire. So this kind of contrast between her, who's like, oh god, it's so hard to explain concisely.
No, you're good. I'm just enjoying all of these different sketches that, like, they kind of look like the, you know how you go into, like, an animation studio and you just see all the different concept arts?
Yeah.
Just, like, all over the place of the characters, just in different poses, different situations. That's what this feels like.
Yeah.
It feels like if I was working in that studio, this is what would be, like, all over the walls, like, as reference.
Yeah. I'm really glad. Because that's basically what this is. It's me kind of hashing out the concepts and the vibes I want for the characters.
I love how tiny Lissy is.
Yeah. She's so small next to Ruth. They're like, budding romance is... Like, it starts out... Ruth has been working for this company forever. Liz bounces around between one job to another, as she gets bored of them. And is the bright new shiny face at the night shift where Ruth works. And Ruth is like, oh my god, I'm too tired for this.
I would rather you not.
Yeah.
The computer just says help.
Yeah. I was like, okay, maybe I can draw a comic.
Ooh.
And so I started sketching out this little, like, comic idea.
Lissy's hair.
Just peeking up over. And I was like, no. What do you want? So you know how most vampire stories, vampires are like, oh, eternal youth.
Yeah.
You know, dating a teenager or whatever.
Yeah, the really weird, creepy route that a lot of them go to.
Liz is, like, so beyond done trying to date people who are, like, even 30's too young for her. She's hundreds of years old.
She's just like, I need an aged person.
So she sees this absolute project of a woman. and is like, that's a MILF.
Lissy is just like, I can make her better.
So, like, some of the vibes I have with their relationship at the start is, like, Popular from the Wicked soundtrack.
Oh my god. It's my scrunky auntie. Oh my god.
So as I was kind of playing in that space, I started like, okay, so here's some of the more deep emotional beats. Like maybe they're talking about, you know, Liz is like, hey, do you believe in true love or, you know, one true love or soulmates or whatever? And Ruth is like thinking about her dead spouse and is like, well, yeah. And Liz is like, I don't. And Ruth is like, wait, what? That seems really unusual for you because, like, you're the most ditzy romantic person that I know. Why wouldn't that be something you would be into?
Yeah.
And Liz is like, maybe so, but isn't it a lot more romantic to know your love needn't die with the one you give your heart? That you can give and give and give again, knowing that none are less special to you than any other? And that being like one of those things where it kind of like hits Ruth that her life isn't over with her deceased spouse and but it's also an office rom-com with supernatural creatures. This is actually the sketch that I have and ended up taking to completion, and it is the thumbnail image I decided for the adult cartoon TV show that they are the leads of. And I wanted it to get them both. I wanted Ruth to be looking all scrungly.
I love that adjective. I love the word scrungly. I never use it, but oh my god. It's a very good descriptor.
Yeah. And then, you know, Liz over here just being like cheeky and breaking past Ruth's boundaries in a way that probably wouldn't actually be good for any kind of actual work situation, but
it's definitely like some this might be branching into HR territory situation.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining in the first half of the show, like, Lissy keeps getting taken away by HR because Ruth is just like, I don't want to deal with this while I'm at work. And, like, in the middle of a confrontation where Lissy's doing whatever, Ruth is just on her computer filing a report to HR. And, like, you can clearly see that's what's happening. And Lissy's just, like, still going on with whatever she's doing.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah.
And then later, Lissy's just, like, complaining to Ruth, like, I can't believe HR took me aside. I don't even understand. And Ruth is standing there like, yeah, you wouldn't, would you? These are both very you characters.
I'm glad that's I was able to bring that into it. I also was playing around with the vector layers. And I've been doing that a lot lately, and I really, really like it.
Yeah.
Because, one, I can tweak the lines after I finish a layer, right? So I can, like, draw something, and if it's not quite right, I don't have to completely redraw it. I can just take the little thing and tweak it a bit. And then I can also super easily erase everything that's past that line. It doesn't work as well as I'd like it to for coloring lines in after the fact, because the way I do colored lines and I...
She blepping.
Yeah, flip-flopping, making sure I actually was really happy with how quickly I dashed Lissy's face out. Because when I flipped it, I was like, oh wow, this actually looks okay. I wanted to get a more simple style than what I usually do because I wanted it to look like it could be animated, but then I added way too many fabric folds to be actually viable for that.
This is the promo.
Yeah, this is the promo image, the one that, the Netflix thumbnail, if you will.
What are you talking about? Netflix would never have a show as good as it.
And so I accidentally set some of the layers to something that I've like never used as a blending mode layer. And I was like, oh, I actually kind of like what that did to the colors in a way that takes it very far away from what I usually color like.
Yeah.
So I end up coming back to that at the very end. Because I was also trying to work with color palettes that I don't usually do because my go-to is blues and greens, and one of these is black and white, the other is yellow. And then I was like, okay, let's dash out a background and kind of that maybe Steven Universe-ish lineless shape style.
Yeah.
With gradients and highlight lines and stuff. I was just kind of throwing stuff at the wall. I wanted it to be a nighttime background because it's in an office at night.
The idea of night office is kind of funny.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's a vampire. It's a natural
Yeah.
thing for... And then werewolf, also a creature of the night, I guess.
Gosh, our concepts are so different.
Oh, I'm so glad. That makes me really happy, because, like,
Even, like, the way we ended up going to, like, what their relationship becomes after it's just coworker annoying the fuck out of Ruth for forever
Yeah!
is completely different.
That's so good. Some point in here, I end up giving up on trying to make an actual background, like an actual in perspective, here are the cubicles behind them kind of background, and just blow up the windows.
That's so fair. I actually did perspective in my piece, so you're valid for just giving up.
And then I go for graphic design, because I hate graphic design, and I wanted to suffer more, I guess.
Good. Netflix.
I add a little Netflix logo in the corner because it's a Netflix show. Like I was, that pause right before I started doing all this was me going to Netflix and looking at the different...
That's so funny.
I play around with some different fonts and different styles, some gradients on there, because I was like, it has to have the show title, but I can't.
Yeah.
I've done all the graphic design for my channel. All the thumbnails, all the graphic design, all the everything. Which maybe you might be doing the thumbnail for this one, so that'll be cool.
Yeah. I'm excited then, trying to figure out how.
I decided it looked a little bit too flat, so I started adding some shading. I end up absolutely hating what I'm doing to the shading here, and scrapping it all and going for because this actually isn't even an overlay or a blending mode layer like I usually do. I just grabbed a darker color and started shading, and then I realized, oh, I don't like this. I need to fix the title so the title actually looks halfway decent. Fussing around with that, add a couple of ovals in the background because, try coloring the lines. Nothing's quite working for me. I change it back to this font.
Lots of futzing.
Yeah, this is lots of futzing. I try to play around with the colors because I'm like, okay, vampire, red, Ruth, yellow, together is McDonald's colors. And it's like, no. That doesn't work. I need to find a different key color for Lissy. And I end up giving them each the opposite color.
Oh.
So Lissy ends up having gold jewelry instead of silver silver and black like I'd originally given. And then I go with a sort of pink tone red, or like a fuchsia-ish red.
With a mug. Yeah.
And then give that mug to Ruth. And then that looked better than the McDonald's red that was behind the logo originally. I do a bit more futzing with it. Oh, I also remake the Netflix logo to actually look like the Netflix logo. I do not download a version of the Netflix logo. I actually make it myself.
That's so valid, because the other Netflix logo, I'm just like, I love this wonky N, because it looks like knockoff Netflix.
Yeah. No, I actually got attached to this. I want it to be an actual cartoon. Yeah, and then once I got to this point, I'm like, okay, final touches. Getting the colors to match more, because the white and gray wasn't quite working, so I go with kind of a pink, because it matches the colors better. I tweak the value. that was not an actual intended color. That was, I need to select just this and not the ears. I throw in some gradients on them to give a little bit more contrast.
Nice to see that we both, like, futz to hell and back with our pieces.
Oh, this was all futzing.
Yeah.
I got the inks and everything down super fast and then futzed for 2 hours.
Like, I have an extra probably hour and a half of futzing that I didn't record because it already had, like, gotten me past 10 hours with some of the futzing, and I'm like, I can't record the rest of this futzing. It's just gonna be me making small changes and staring at it for 5 minutes for another 2 hours.
Sometimes that's how it is. I think I shaded again. I add a few more gradients to give it a bit more depth. There's the final shading I end up going with.
Oh yeah, the
just
purple.
kind of a blue to unify it.
Yeah.
Yeah. This also helps. I make the shadow fall between them instead of like just up or down, which I think helps sell the nighttime look and also push them a little bit apart from each other visually.
Yeah. Kind of like you know how lights are displaced just enough in an office where it would be like one on either side.
Yeah, exactly. Play around with coloring the line art. Do not like that. Go right back. But yeah, this is pretty much what I have. I fought it for a long time, but I did end up being pretty happy with what I came up with.
Mm-hmm.
I like the character designs.
Me too.
I checking the values. And then there we go.
I love this. They're absolutely adorable.
Thank you. Once I finally got something that I was like, because it ends up being a pretty simple drawing,
Yeah.
but it conveys what I want it to convey. I played around with some new styles and was able to do something different with it.
Yeah. Now it's my turn.
All right.
Okie dokie. So, we're just getting right into it. Originally, I kind of jumped straight into actually making a piece. Because I had a very clear image in my mind of what would happen, but for the life of me, I couldn't draw it. I had like 3 false starts before I decided, fuck it, I'm just going to design how I want the characters to look first. You see me pulling a picture of a goldfish for reference.
Yeah.
I'm just going to design how the characters look first and then decide it from there. Because while I had their relationship already in mind, I did not have an actual concept put together.
Mm-hmm.
And here you have me drawing Ruth first.
Yes, naturally.
I honestly love the way... Don't mind the goldfish. I decided, like, large eyes because of goldfish. That's how I decided to implement that.
Yeah.
So you see me drawing Ruth first. Right off the bat, I kind of already knew what Ruth was like.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of struck me as a very confident, not quite no nonsense, but more of a serious person.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't know, it was the person that I had in mind when I read Ruth's description was Hank Anderson from the Detroit Become Human game.
Okay, yeah.
Who's just kind of like this surly older detective.
Mm-hmm.
And he's kind of a grizzled, like, let go of himself kind of character, and I was just like, Ruth is absolutely this.
Yeah.
Also, I'm sorry for the toes, you're gonna see a lot of them. And absolutely, I put Ruth in jorts, it just made sense.
No, I absolutely.
And here I'm just jumping straight into thumbnails, trying to figure out, like, the placement of, like, how I want the characters to be interacting. Because in my mind, I was like, the coworker is definitely, like, younger. While they may, like, physically probably be the same age as Ruth, they were definitely, in vampire terms at least, younger, so they act kind of childish. Like, in my head, I was just like, yes, typical Gen Z
Yeah.
sort of situation. And I actually considered, at first, making the, coworker, Dullahan. Because I couldn't figure out what I wanted the face to look like, so I was just like, headless horseman, that would work. And then I was just like, nah, vampire suits it better.
Yeah.
And also then I could draw a facial expression. And it was interesting because at first, when you did your first drawing of Lissy,
Did it look a little bit like...
it looked a little bit like my character.
It does! Yeah! That's so funny!
And, like, when I saw it, I just kind of sat there holding my breath, like, did we seriously do this? And while drawing the coworker is kind of when I came up with the idea of what their actual concept would be. And I did end up sticking with, because I liked the idea of detectives after comparing Ruth to Hank Anderson. And I decided they were part of, like, a supernatural task force.
Yeah!
And that Ruth is, like, the older detective who's seen a lot of shit, where here I'm just kind of, like, drawing their badge. And the coworker is, like, the younger, newer detective who's very bright and, like, excited to be working with Ruth because, like, Ruth is really good at her job.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Ruth is just, like, this kid is gonna get themselves killed. I do not want to be liable for anything that happens.
I love how much detail you put into this. That's amazing.
We haven't even gotten in to how detailed I end up making it, and here I'm back in thumbnail hell trying to figure out, like, I draw this kind of office scenario of just like the coworker being very annoying. Just like, what are we gonna do next? Do we have another case?
Yeah.
And Ruth is sitting there like trying to get her paperwork done.
I I love how we've got the grumpy character contrasted with the way too fucking chipper.
I mean, it just makes sense.
It does. It really does.
This is what the kind of composition that I ended up going with is them in an alleyway at like the scene of a crime. There's just like a dead body,
Oh, that's so good.
and Ruth is just like standing there contemplating like shit again. And for the coworker, who I decided's name is Ivy Moss because it was funny.
Uh-huh.
um Ivy is just like, ah, cool, a body. And I had a lot of fun with this piece, with this composition, because it just felt like it's so different from anything I've ever drawn before.
Mm-hmm.
I just really liked the contrast of Ruth standing there kind of solemnly,
Yeah.
kind of just thinking of just like, okay, cataloging everything around her, whereas Ivy is sitting on the ground, just kind of,
Got their little parasol, like.
yeah, just kind of chilling out, like, just another Sunday. Like, very excited to be on a case. But yeah, as I mentioned earlier, this is definitely a longer drawing. I think with all of my false starts and the extra futzing I did at the end, this is definitely over 12 hours
Oh my god.
of drawing. Mostly because the original idea I had was of them in a car, and Ruth is driving, just like getting very annoyed because Ivy is the one sitting like in the passenger seat with the map open, like trying to give them directions, obviously reading it wrong.
Uh-huh.
And Ruth is just like, just tell me where the fuck I'm supposed to go. But I couldn't, for the life of me, figure out how to draw a car. Even though it wasn't an entire car, it was just like part of it.
Cars are hard. Anything mechanical.
Yeah, when I was drawing Ruth, I had the idea that I just wanted her to be kinda hairy, because werewolves, like, they're very hairy, and it doesn't make sense to me when there's a female werewolf character, and when not transformed, she doesn't have any, like, extra body hair.
Yeah.
Like, that always just felt weird and kind of misogynistic to me.
Yeah.
So I was just like, fuck you, I'm making Ruth hairy and she's owning it, and I think she's absolutely hot, like, goddamn.
Absolutely.
And so that's why I gave her kind of the, yeah, there I have put in the badge. I was just like, so glad I drew this. So yeah, she's got like very hairy legs, she's got hairy arms, as well as just kind of like, yeah, barefoot. I could not see her wearing shoes at all, just cause like if she transforms, shoes would just be in the way.
Yeah.
So it felt very practical to be wearing clothes that are non-restrictive and can be easily shucked in case of a transformation.
Yeah.
Which is another reason why I ended up putting her in jorts. There you see me just kind of measuring. And I really liked how Ruth looked with all of the scruff.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it works really, really well in your style too.
Mm-hmm.
To have that like scruffliness.
And pretty soon you're gonna see when Clip Studio crashes for the first time.
No.
Clip Studio crashed twice while I was drawing this, and OBS crashed twice while I was recording it as well. Thankfully, I noticed the OBS crashes really fast, so I didn't lose too much footage. But yeah, this is when it first crashed. It was in the middle of drawing Ivy's face.
Oh, that's so rough.
Yeah. But it's okay, because I didn't like how the hair was turning out anyway, because I was just like, I don't think Ivy would have their hair down all the time. So I ended up kind of like pulling
Yeah.
it back in a bun. Well, at first I thought ponytail, and then I was just like, nah,
Oh,
bun.
yeah, I love
It's just a
that.
messy bun.
That's really good.
And it was funny because at first I debated, like, come on, Beans, again, you're putting someone in a hoodie? Like, seriously. And then I was just like, no, Ivy really doesn't give a fuck. Ivy would absolutely wear a hoodie. And here you see me maneuvering. I've gotten very good at using 3D models.
Yeah.
Because, like, when I first got Clip Studio Paint, that was, like, the first thing that I started to mess with.
Yeah.
And I found a 3D model for an umbrella. So I was just like, okay, I can't figure out how to draw this umbrella so that it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to quick whip up the proper pose, and then I have my hand and arm make sense with the umbrella.
That's what it's for.
Yeah, that's what it's there for. And like umbrellas are difficult. I don't understand them.
They're like one of the hardest shapes to draw because they're like not flat, not curved exactly. They're a partial oval.
They're like concave, but not concave enough that you can make it circular.
Yeah.
I just realized that both the times that Clip Studio crashed was when I was drawing Ivy.
Did it crash again while you were doing the hands or something?
No, it crashes when I'm working on the feet later.
Ah.
When I'm actually like coloring in the feet and working on shading. You see me just like, I don't remember what shoes look like, so I just stole a pair and I was just like, okay.
Yeah.
I work a lot from references, and
Mm-hmm.
I find it very helpful. Here you see me kind of like going back and forth between all of the million pens I have, because I swear I have a shoelace pen, but I couldn't find it, so I tried instead to do a trick I saw on TikTok where you set the layer to border effect,
Mm-hmm.
and then it just gives you the outline of where you're drawing if you set your pen color to white,
Yeah.
which then you would be able to set in your settings, change shade to opacity to like transparency, and just merge it down, and then you have the clear inside and just the outline.
Yeah.
But I didn't like how that looked, so I just decided to draw it in manually. And you see me fussing with this hand a lot because, like, I was even, like, so many times during this piece, I would just stop and cross my arms just to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that this is how someone would cross their arms. And every time I'd, like, look at my hand, I'm like, no, that's what this hand looks like, but why does it look wrong? And here you see me grab another 3D model. I just steal this boy that is there, and I say, "You're dead now, boy," just so that I could have his legs and feet, because I didn't want to have to figure that out,
Yeah.
especially since it wasn't the focus, so I didn't feel bad about just stealing this boy's legs and
And
feet.
killing him.
And yeah, I killed him. And then you see me kind of whip up this perspective on the grid, just kind of blocking in the shapes of like storefronts across the street, as well as fixing the angle of the alleyway so that it made sense with the storefronts across the street. And here you see me doing that same border effect
good trick.
as I did earlier, just so that I have all those in place.
God, and this is just your sketch layer, isn't it?
This is my sketch layer.
Oh my god.
Yeah, there's still a lot. Like, I did so much multiple times throughout the piece. I'm like, is this too much? And before I was just like, nah, it'll work, I'll figure it out, it'll be fine. This is where I decided to put in the travel element. I just put a travel poster on the wall. I was just like, shit, how do I put that element in here of Ruth liking to look for new places to live on Mondays? And I'm like, oh, I'll put a travel poster on the wall, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then here you see me kind of messing around. Well, I'm putting in the lines, actually, for the background first, because I was just like, that's a lot, actually. I'm just gonna finish the background. It's just a lot of line work and coloring.
Yeah.
You see me try to do it again, and then I realize I don't really like it all that much. Well, actually, no, I do it individually on each layer, and then I'm like, that's fine.
Yeah. Because that way you get it across the.
And you see me kind of futz in and say, like, I don't want to draw all of these bricks, so I'll just draw part of them. And then I realize that looks stupid. So I try a different way of drawing some of the bricks so that I get the feeling of bricks without having to draw every single brick.
it's it's hard. Like it
Bricks are difficult. I end up just deciding to take this texture for bricks and like
trace the grout lines.
I tried doing the grout lines, but later I thought that looked stupid as well. So I end up just actually taking this brick pattern and lowering the opacity a lot and putting it as an overlay layer, so it's just like kind of there.
That's valid.
Because I just couldn't make it look how I wanted it to look.
Yeah. Because it's like you have to have that perfect balance of texture versus detail.
I ended up doing this piece in a very rough brush. It's the Mameo one. It has a lot of tooth to it. Like, I had debated at first kind of doing this with more of a cleaner line. But because it's such a big piece, I didn't want to give myself more anxiety in trying to make everything clean, as well as a lot of the details are so small that from far away it wouldn't matter if it was clean lines.
So using the rough brush just gives you psychologically a out for not having it all perfect.
Yeah, as well as I feel like when I use a rougher brush and things like that, there's a lot more motion to it because I don't care as much, you know? I've definitely done like a lot of stuff with clean lines as well, but
yeah,
there's kind of a sense of letting go when I use the weird, chunky kind of this brush is absolutely insane sort of texture, because that's what I'm most comfortable working with.
Yeah. It's so funny. We both used the kind of textured brush, but went in very different directions with, like, how and why.
Yeah. I feel very proud of Ruth's crossed arms and, like, indicating the elbows.
You should. It looks great.
Elbows is something that I've been focusing on a lot in my work lately. Like, I already do 95% of the time that I'm drawing, it's literally just figure practice and then realizing I should actually finish the drawing. And one of the things I've been focusing on is kind of elbows and knee indentations instead of just making it kind of look flat, like actually giving the dimples and the bumps of elbows and knees. Because I'm like, I think that'll look good in my work. I already have a majority of anatomy kind of nailed down because that's literally most of the time what I'm drawing.
Yeah.
So I worked very hard on those elbows.
It paid off.
Also, I apologize for anybody that doesn't like feet. Fuck you. I can draw feet, so I'm gonna draw them. I was actually surprised on how good I made these feet. I didn't use a reference at all on the feet, and I was just like, I have this power. And as I was drawing the feet, I had like a crisis, like, oh god, I can draw feet.
Yeah, I need to do feet studies like I went and did hand studies at one time, and but also that would involve downloading a bunch of pictures of feet and looking at them for extended periods of time.
Yeah, and you're afraid of what that'll do to you. Despite how big and, like, laborious this piece was, I had so much fun with it, because it's unlike anything I've ever drawn before. And it really showed me that, like, perspective and scenes aren't as scary as they always seem to be. As well as, like, I know now that in the case that I do get messed up, it's very easy to line up everything with Clip Studio assets.
Yeah.
Also, I've had it pointed out to me that I always put a lot of detail on shoes, and I never really realized that until I was literally working on Ivy's shoes and was just like, I'm putting a lot of effort into these laces and making sure that, like,
the laces are crossed properly.
Yeah, that they're crossed. Like you saw earlier, I put I put a measurement of the middle of it as well to make sure they all crossed over in the middle of the shoe. I don't know why shoes are something that I focus a lot of energy on, but I guess it's just part of my style.
Honestly, yeah. Like I've noticed other artists too where like shoes are a big focus and they have like super fashionable shoes and it's like iconic in their character designs. God, this looks so good.
Thank you. And here you have me starting to, again, I worked on the background first before the characters, because I know that if I worked on the characters first, I would have a harder time making the background match the characters. As well as, like, just if I worked on the characters first too, with the colors, balancing those would be harder, because as I'm picking out colors for the background, there's a lot more color in the background than there are on the characters. Yeah, here's when I finally decide to erase those lines and say, fuck it, I'm just keeping this. I do a lot of shading on the bricks, actually. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, you kind of get into a rhythm of it.
And then for kind of the across the street background, I ended up just taking a very smudgy brush that I like to shade with and painting the background.
Yeah,
it's not supposed to be the focus. It's just kind of supposed to be there.
just implying it.
And like once I've painted everything, I put a blur on the background as well to make it even more out of focus.
Mm-hmm.
Since it's just supposed to be like, okay, there's things across the street, I don't need to worry about that, so I'm just gonna make this blobby and blurry.
Mm-hmm.
Blobby and blurry, Fast and Furious, like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't necessarily... You got all the elements to it, you can see them back there, but it's not the focus, so it's a good conservation of effort.
Yeah, as well as it saved me on lining even more shit. So there I put the blur layer over the background, kind of make it recede. And here I decide to letter the do not cross sign myself. I don't know why I decided to do this. I think it's because I couldn't find a font that I liked, so I'm just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do my own lettering and then figure it out from there.
Yeah.
And then here you have me kind of giving up and then just putting the rest of the letters down. Because I was just like, do I want this to look a certain way? I don't actually care. And then I painted in kind of this travel poster as well. And then kind of shading in the dead dude, like, rip you. I don't even know who you are. It's fine. I realized that the way I like to do blood is interesting. I'll go for a very saturated red and throw that down.
Uh-huh.
And then in the same red, I will throw down a multiply layer on top and apply that directly over it, going very heavy, kind of like with a smudgy brush, in certain sections to kind of give that, like, depth to it as well. I don't know, I think it's always ended up making the blood look kind of the right...
Pretty bloody.
Pretty bloody, yeah.
Yeah.
And now I'm finally doing colors on the characters.
Yeah! I like how the alleyway's in shadow, too. It's a good touch.
Yeah, I decided that I wanted this to kind of be late afternoon. So I wanted there to be light filtering down from like above the alley onto them. Mm-hmm. So they're in partial shadow, partial light. In my later futzing, after I've drawn everything, is when I really started just messing around with the light for about an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And make it look like there are beams of light kind of coming around whatever chunks and stuff is sticking out from the top of the alley.
Yeah.
Here you have me just deciding, fuck it, I'm just gonna give a pattern. I know that there's a way to, like, with the mesh tool, make it actually look like...
There is.
But...
It's a pain in the ass.
It's a pain, and I don't really care that much. I think there's a certain charm as well to patterns not quite going along with the flow.
I completely agree.
And then there you see me kind of blobbing like shadows, because I didn't want the shadows to be too in hyper detail, because I imagine that it was kind of a cloudier day too.
Yeah.
Kind of lending it more to this late afternoon filtered light. And at first, I decided to give Ivy, like, this really pale skin tone, because I was just like, okay, vampire, pale, that works. I even debated giving them, darker sclera before deciding, nah, fuck it, that will kind of lose itself in the piece. I need to make it darker. And this color isn't the final color that I go with, because I end up putting a kind of a saturated pink over everything, because I really wanted Ivy to have a very bright, kind of bubbly feel to them.
Uh-huh.
And that means lots of pink and purple and like orange and things like that.
Yeah.
It also worked in contrast with Ruth, who has very it isn't monochromatic, but it's kind of plain colors. Like
Yeah.
honestly, the stuff that Ruth wears is very much kind of like the color palette that I usually wear.
Uh-huh.
And around here is where Clip Studio crashes again and I lose a lot of progress.
No.
Literally, I don't know what. I think it's because Clip Studio was supposed to have an update. There you go. There was the crash. I lost the shoes and the umbrella. And then I just decided to kind of crop it a bit because it felt too wide. I wanted there to be a little bit more focus on Ivy and
Yeah.
Ruth. Then I spent another hour working on lighting
Oh my god.
and this is the final. I feel very proud of this.
You should. It looks amazing.
Thank you. I love the way that we went in different directions.
Yeah.
It kind of shows how our brains go, because, like, yours definitely has that animated cartoon feel.
Yeah. I think it's so funny, like, the things that stayed similar and the things that, like, didn't.
Like, I knew that we were both going to do vampire.
Yeah, same.
Because it's the very obvious answer when somebody says werewolf and you think of companion to a werewolf. It's likely going to be vampire.
Yeah.
So I knew that there was going to be similarities in that, like red eyes, paler skin, normal vampire shit. But it was interesting seeing, because we both went with the bubbly, grumpy dynamic.
Yeah.
Because it makes the most sense why Ruth would be annoyed and dislike their coworker.
Yeah, because it's not. It's a type of contentious relationship that can be built upon and not like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a situation now where they would, like, meet.
I feel like even our Ruths, because they're described as the same person, I don't think they would get along.
I don't think so either.
Because you went more tired routes
Yeah.
and, like, done with everything, whereas my Ruth is more jaded.
Yeah. It's different vibes, but they still, like, lead to that grumpy.
Yeah. Like, we look at both of them and we see grumpy, but I think they could work together, but I don't think either of them would like working together.
Yeah.
Whereas our,
I think Liz and Ivy would get along.
I think Liz and Ivy would be like besties.
Yeah. Actually, that alone would be bonding for the Ruths.
Yeah, I could definitely see the Ruths being like, oh, yours is like that too.
Yeah.
or like, oh god, there's two of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh god, we have to do an outro now. Good night. Bye.
Okay, we're done. Get the fuck out of here. Show's over, folks.
Roll credits.
Roll credits. Well, since this is my channel now, I'll be closing this episode.
We've rambled on enough about these characters.
Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed our random character generator drawings. Like and subscribe, you know, that usual shenanigans. It feels weird kind of saying that, actually.
I always forget to do that on the other videos I make.
Well, shows you why I'm better at managing this channel than you are.
Oh no!
Yes, it's beans now. It's all beans. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you next time.
Good night!
Good night. I get good morning. There. Now we have both ends.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
The first 100 people to like this video will get visited by a haunted apparition in their nightmares. Why is that a good thing? I don't know.